Rockford IceHogs goalie Jeff Glass, you have been a busy guy this season.
Yeah, no, I worked. I got some air miles this year for sure. It was a lot of fun. It was exciting, but most importantly, the best time of year is upon us. We're in the playoffs and ready to roll.
So when you look back on your career playing hockey, I mean, from when you're a little kid on, have you had a crazy season like this ever? I mean, this is insane. You're going back and forth from Rockford to Chicago, getting some opportunities you haven't gotten before.
Yeah, it was great. It really was an awesome year for myself personally, and I think even as a team here in Rockford, I don't know exactly what the expectations were when we started the season, but I know that the playoffs was a goal for us. So we definitely achieved lots of things individually. I think as a bunch of guys could attest to that, and then as a group, we're in the playoffs now, and that was definitely a goal as well. So. I know right now everybody's excited about the playoffs. Everybody's pumped up, and so once the playoffs are done and we got a championship and all that fun stuff, we can look back on all the good times with Chicago and playing in the NHL. But I really think guys are pretty focused right now and trying to get this done.
Talking to Jeff Glass, Rockford IceHogs goaltender. So let's talk about the playoffs. Something about, I mean, obviously in every sport, playoffs are special. You get the opportunity to play on. You play, especially in hockey, you play a very long season of up and downs. But when it comes to playoff hockey, is there anything more exciting?
Yeah, you're going to get a biased opinion, but I think there's nothing better. And I really do think that playoff hockey is almost a different sport, and people are excited to watch it. Players are excited to play it. It's more intense. It's you play the same team over and over, and especially. I find in the American League, it's going to be a team we've played 12 times already this year. The hatred's there. There's no, we know each other inside and out. So it's going to be the better team's going to win the series. And we know what they're all about. They know what we're all about. We've studied each other 1,000 times. So that's where the fun is for me, is the fact that there's no hiding. There's nowhere to go. It's going to be, you put your best stuff out there and they're going to do the same. And we're going to use the better team.
When you play, like, this is a 5-game series against a team that you have faced 12 times. Is it, at this point, the better team will win? Or is there fluke things that can happen, bounces and weird penalties and stuff like that?
I think you're spot on, and I think that's why playoff hockey is so exciting, even for just the average fan, is that anything can happen and anything will happen. But there's a lot of variables in hockey, and there's some that you can control and some that you can't, and you got to realize that pucks aren't always going to bounce your way, or momentum's kind of a funny thing in the playoffs as well. So once all these things pile up against you, you got to be ready to kind of stop it and make sure that it doesn't get out of hand, especially in a 5-game series, because before you know it, you're behind the 8 ball and it's too late. So I think we're going to focus on trying to get ahead of it and control what we can control, and let the cards fall where they do.
It's a huge rivalry between these two teams, and things get heated. But where's the point where, okay, you have the rivalry, you don't want to get pushed around by your hated rival, but this is the playoffs, and you really have to be careful on what you do, because if, somebody has a penalty, that could hurt the team, and you could lose a game that way.
Yeah, and you make a great point. I think our head coach, Jeremy Colton's talked about this all year, and especially the second half of the year, is, we have to walk that fine line of being a disciplined team, but playing with an edge. And I think that when we play with an edge, we're a really good hockey team. We're a tough team to play against. We're engaged. We're all the things you want to be, but that comes with riding that fine line of not taking penalties, not being undisciplined, because the bottom line is the Wolves' power play is very good, and it will hurt us if we take too many penalties. So we're going to be looking to stay disciplined in this series. With that being said, there's not going to be a lack of intensity.
Talking to Rockford IceHogs goalie Jeff Glass. The playoffs start this weekend. Saturday in your Chicago. Sunday is the first home game in Rockford at the BMO Harris Bank Center at 4 o'clock. And the more fans we can get down there, the better, right?
Yeah, we got to try to sell this thing out and make it a place where nobody wants to come in and play. And I know we already have that edge, and we've had a great home record this year. But I think that we do have an edge playing at the BMO Harris Bank Center because of the fans and the atmosphere that's created in there. So I'm really excited to play that game too, and hopefully we come back with a 1-0 series lead, and we can kind of put our foot on them in game 2.
Now, I got to talk about the tradition of the playoffs. the beard. A lot of people might not know about the playoff beard. Talk about the playoff beard a little bit in hockey.
What do you want to know?
Do you know the history, or is it just one of those things where, well, we'll just grow a beard?
No, I think, I think I can take it back as far as I know it, but it's a tradition amongst players, and once the playoffs start, you can't shave. So there's there's some guys that grow ugly beards, there's some guys that grow pretty good beards, there's some guys that get head starts. There's all sorts of different techniques, I think, going into the playoffs, but if you go on, or if you're lucky enough to go on a good run and go 3 or 4 rounds, there's some pretty ugly facial hair, and it's pretty good to watch.
Now, a couple questions. First of all, you started yours early. Is that okay?
I'm not sure yet. I have to decide that in the next couple of days if I want to maintain this and keep going, or if I want to start over again. And so I'm not usually a guy that gets a head start, but it seems like laziness has kicked in this year, and I might have a little head start on everybody.
Now, once the playoffs start and you have your beard going, are you allowed to do any grooming to it, or it is what it is?
No, that's personal preference. I don't know. I think there's a rule out there, but I'm not going to get into guys' codes or what they do or can't do. But I've always been told that shaving's bad luck, and so that's why you don't do it in the playoffs. And what guys do to their beards, if they want to manicure it or whatever they do, by all means have at her. But it'll be interesting. You'll see some good ones for sure.
Okay, on the team, who's going to have the best beard and who's going to have the worst beard?
Oh, good one. I think the best beard's got to be Cody Franzen. That guy can grow a mean beard, and we've seen flashes of it this year.
Well, he's been around, too. Yes. He's a vet.
Yeah, he's a vet. He's an older guy. And then you don't have to look like we got a lot of young guys in our team. So
there's probably guys that can't even grow beards on the team.
That's what I mean. I think there'll be a few guys that get maybe half a mustache or, there's some sideburns or something like that. So it'll be fun to see those guys, too.
Rockford IceHogs kick off the playoffs this weekend against the Chicago Wolves in Chicago Saturday, but home on Sunday down at the BMO Harris Bank Center, 4 o'clock game time. You can get info at icehogs.com. Tickets available at the box office. We were talking a little bit about the playoff beard and a little bit about superstitions when it comes to players, but when it comes to fans, they may have more superstitions than the actual players.
Yeah, we were just talking about this off the air, but it's been a lot of fun to be a fan watching playoffs. I've got to be a part of quite a few runs, but the spring times when I'm not playing, when I get to actually watch, we're kind of laughing about, you become superstitious as a fan as well.
Right.
And if it's where you sit on the couch or which jersey you wear, or, which hand your cell phone's in or whatever it is, it directly affects if the guys are going to win or not. And we had a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun watching playoff hockey, and so I think that'll be a lot of fun for the people around here to be able to kind of take it in and be a part of the run and start to form their own superstitions.
When there was a Blackhawks, the 2010 Blackhawks run, because it was the first one, and I found a jersey that when I wore it, they won. So I started wearing that jersey all the games. Well, then you get into June and you're wearing a hockey jersey, and of course you don't want to wash it because that'll ruin the luck. And then all of a sudden you're in June with the smelly hockey jersey.
And that's playoff hockey, right? And you're that guy, but everybody's jealous of you because your team's still going, and that's the best. I really think it's the best. So I'm hoping that we can all get together here, have a good little run, and everyone can jump on board.
And this rivalry between the two, it's huge. But this year, the series it's pretty much even, and the teams are pretty equal.
Yeah, and you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but we know we're both good teams, and whichever team comes out of this is going to have a good chance to make a run. But I think both teams had waves this year where they played really strong, and both teams, obviously the opposite, were struggled a little bit against each other. But I think we split the season series 6-6 apiece, so it should be a really good series. It should be a series that guys want to play, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Talking to Jeff Glass, Rockford IceHogs goaltender. Playoffs start this weekend, Saturday in Chicago, Sunday here in Rockford at 4 o'clock. So the way the series works, so you have 2 games this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And then you don't play until basically the following weekend, Thursday, Sunday. How does that affect if maybe you go in and you play well 2 games? Does it stop the momentum? If you have a couple of bad games, does that help? How does that affect the team having that break?
Yeah, it's definitely unique because usually you're used to playing every other day. So the first thing that's unique is you're playing back-to-back. You're going to play 2 games in less than 24 hours with a 7 o'clock start and a 4 o'clock start. So that'll be the first interesting part of the
Because
season.
you guys are creatures of habit.
It is. It's weird how that works. And then playing back-to-back nights, if the first one goes to overtime, who knows? It could really work in your favor or against your favor. So I'm really hoping we get off to a good start because, like you said, we're going to have 3 days to think about it before that Game 3 on Thursday. And another couple of days if it does go Game 4 and another day before Game 5. So it is a little bit drawn out for a 5-game series, but I think it's a matter of trying not to have too much momentum roll over from game to game, play each game individually, and focus on winning one game at a time. All those stupid playoff cliches really come into effect now.
They're cliches, but they're true.
Yeah.
Which makes me angry because you don't want to use cliches, but they are true. What will the goalie situation, because you have, what, is there 3 of you now down here?
There's 2 of us now.
Oh,
There's,
okay.
there's me and Colin Delia. So, you know what, Coach hasn't talked to us about that specifically, and to be honest, I'm not concerned at all about it. So whoever he picks or however this turns, it's going to be good. I think the team's confident in both of us, and we both know that we can play, and if we're going to go on a run, we're probably both going to end up playing at one point or another, and that's just how playoff hockey is. You need 2 good goalies to play, and so I'm not sure who's starting Game 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but I'll be ready, and we'll go from there.
Rockford IceHogs goalie Jeff Glass in studio with me. Playoffs kick off this weekend. Saturday night in Chicago. Sunday, home at the BMO Harris Bank Center. Game time is 4 o'clock. Get info and tickets at icehogs.com. So I have to ask you, because you're a goalie, I figured you could kind of relate. I know you weren't there, but you could kind of relate to the situation. So Chicago, one of their goalies gets hurt warm-ups, and then another goalie gets hurt during the game. So you have 2 goalies. And then all of a sudden, this guy comes out of the locker room who's an accountant. Explain a little bit that situation, how that happens, and where this extra person comes from.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Obviously, being a goalie, I'm aware of how this works and the scenario at the top level. So in the NHL, they don't ever want to have to stop a game because they don't have a goalie or make a forward play goalie. So what they do is they have
throw Patrick Kane in some goalie gear. Here you go, buddy.
You know, Joel Quenneville or someone in goalie equipment. But, no, they
Here we could have Mark Bernard do it.
Yeah, but Bernie would be all right. No. So at the NHL, they make sure every rink has one goalie that would be able to play for either team. And usually what they do is they have a rotation of 4 or 5 guys that come in, and it's a pretty good setup for a goalie. He's a local guy that gets tickets to the game. And the deal is, if one goalie goes down for either team, you got to go to the dressing room, throw your gear on, and you're now the backup goalie. So sure enough, that happens in warm-ups for the Blackhawks game you're talking about. And then it was Colin Delia's first game, and I think, unfortunately, in all this, that gets lost in the mix. He had a great game and, got his first NHL win. But
he was playing really well.
Right, and he goes down with cramps, and he can't play. So you can't play. In comes the accountant now, and what a story, right? It was pretty cool. I'm pretty happy for the guy, and I actually played with a guy overseas that went to school with him. So right away he texted me and said, "Hey, there's Fozzie. Can you believe he's in right now?"
Right.
I couldn't believe it. It was crazy, but happy for him. I mean, what a good story, and he seems like a really nice guy. And it's like the average guy. He was sitting in the bleachers expecting to eat popcorn and watch a Blackhawks game. Next thing you know, he's playing in the game, and
hopefully he didn't have too many beers and hot dogs.
Well, right, kidding. And I can attest to what he's saying is, even for someone like myself, getting a call up when that phone rings, you're so excited, right? And all the emotions, and you kind of forget what's going on. You get there and you're excited. I can't imagine what he was thinking. It must have been cool, right? And they told him, "Hey, you're getting dressed is one thing, and then oh my gosh, you're going in." So good for him, and that was pretty cool to watch.
So coming in cold. So first of all, if you're the second guy and you don't start and you come in cold off the bench, that's a tough spot to be in. Because a lot of times the situation isn't good. The team needs a switch. So you're coming in cold. You're a guy that was just planning on watching the game. Could you imagine being in that spot and you have to come in and you don't play in the NHL?
Yeah, I think your third point's probably the best one there. Like they don't play in the NHL is the big part.
And he did well.
His heart was racing so fast. He was probably warmed up before he even stepped on the ice. But
he's sweating.
He is sweating for sure. But it was you make a great point. It's tough being a backup goalie, and it's a real niche because you gotta you usually sit there for 2.5 hours, ice cold. You're watching the game, but you're not in the game, and then all of a sudden you're thrown into a situation where you get all of 10, maybe 15 seconds to do a quick stretch, and away you go. There's no warm-up shots. There's no couple warm-up pucks to get the feel for it. Usually it's, right into it. And he did a great job. And any backup goalie, for that matter, that comes in, it's a great way to change the momentum of a game. So coaches use it all the time to, the first goalie's not playing well. Maybe the team's not playing well. Hey, just change the goalie, and we get a change of pace. Now, not very often do two goalies go down, and that has to happen. But I think it was very well done by him, and I know it's something he'll never forget. He'll probably be remembered for that forever. But it was I thought it was pretty cool.
I loved it in the press conference. They're like, "Well, what are you going to do now?" Well, I have to go to work in the morning. He's got a regular job. People forget that. He's just a regular guy.
But the best part is now he's the man, right? Like, he's going to go to work tomorrow. He's just not a normal guy. Like, I hope he better wore his Blackhawks jersey to the office the next day or something like that.
Well, and you think about it, in the playoffs, obviously this year the Blackhawks didn't make it, but the previous several years they would call up a third goalie. So then if that situation happened, there's a professional guy in-house ready to go.
Absolutely. And that's that's the way to the playoffs, and that's what happens. But you can't have that all year. It's not fair to anybody to have a third guy just lurking around. So in fact, I'm from Calgary, and the Calgary Flames play there as an old goalie I grew up playing with, beer leaguer now, exact same story. He's a firefighter in Calgary, and he's basically a season ticket holder for the Calgary Flames. He goes to them all, and he's dressed a few times, but he's never actually gotten into a game because you need two goalies to go down, right? But I think it's pretty cool for the goalie community to, have a guy that, let's say he quit hockey, my buddy, when he was 19 or 20, and he's still in the game now, so it's kind of cool.
I remember a game with the Blackhawks several years ago, and Corey Crawford was called up, but he was the third guy, and a guy got hurt, and then he had to go. He was in a press box just watching the game with the other guys sitting as a scratch, and he had to come in. He had to go down to the locker room and get changed, and you saw him on the bench, and it was like a deer in headlights because it was just the situation you're not ready for. You think you're going to be eating popcorn up in the stands, and then you got to work.
Yeah, we talked about earlier about like creatures of habit, and if you're a third guy, I got to do that last year with the Blackhawks for that short little run, but you're not really a part of the mix. You are, but you aren't. Your job is to help out and not stay out of the way, but don't get in anybody's routine or whatnot. And so when you're actually thrown in, now there's responsibility, and you haven't prepared like you're supposed to prepare. I'm sure it's that overwhelming feeling of, holy man, like this is really happening. So I could totally feel what he's feeling there.
Jeff Glass from the Rockford IceHogs, goaltender, thank you so much for coming in today. Playoffs start this weekend, Saturday in Chicago, Sunday here in Rockford. Let's get a bunch of fans out there to support the team.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's have a good run. It all starts this weekend, and I know the guys are excited. I can speak for them, and I'm really excited personally. It should be an awesome run.